Hi, I'm Kristin, a librarian here at Massanutten Regional Library. February is Black History Month, so in honor of the occasion, I wanted to share with you some books and a movie that take place in Virginia that have to do with Black history. I'll start with True Vine, Two Brothers, a Kidnapping, and a Mother's Quest, a true story of the Jim Crow South by Beth Macy. This is a biography of brothers George and Willie Muse, sharecropper sons from outside Roanoke who were kidnapped in 1899 at the ages of 6 and 9 to be put on display in circuses and freak shows across the country and later around the world. Why? Because they were albino. They were billed as Eco and Iko, sometimes known as the sheep-headed cannibals or two Ecuadorian white savages, or eventually ambassadors from Mars. Their mother spent 28 years trying to get them back. Their story intersects with dozens of others as they lived to be 108 and 80 years old each. Beth Macy is a journalist who combines first-rate research with a knack for storytelling in this incredible account of race and disability in the early 20th century of Virginia. Next up I have Reclamation, Sally Hemings, Thomas Jefferson, and a Descendant's Search for Her Family's Lasting Legacy by Gayle Jessup White. The paternal side of White's family had stories that they were direct descendants of Thomas Jefferson. Some family members thought this was true, some family members didn't think it was true. So White is a journalist, and she spent decades researching her family genealogy, eventually becoming a Jefferson Studies Fellow and proving that she is related to Jefferson and to two families enslaved by him, the Hemingses and the Hubbards. White takes the reader through her research, the realities of life as a Black American woman, and the legacy of racism in the United States in a smooth, almost conversational style. Okay, moving on to fiction, I have the book Yellow Wife by Sadeqa Jonson. I haven't read this one yet, but it's definitely in my to-read pile. In 1850, Phoebe is a slave in Charles City, the daughter of an enslaved woman and their master, who promises to free her on her 18th birthday. Before that day comes, her father's jealous wife sells her to a slave trader, and she ends up as the property and quote-unquote yellow wife of a jailer at a Richmond slave trading center. Urban slavery is not a common topic in historical fiction, which makes this novel stand out. It is also particularly compelling because it's told in first person by Phoebe, a strong female character who does all she can to keep herself and her children safe. Personally, I'm really looking forward to reading this one. Okay, the other fiction title that I have is a little bit more local than that one. Send Judah First by Brian Johnson is the imagined life of a real person who was enslaved at Belle Grove Plantation in the northern Shenandoah Valley. Historical records show that Judah was purchased in 1816 or 1817 by the cousin of Belle Grove's owner to serve as the plantation cook. She had 12 children before dying in 1836. Johnson fills in possible details of her history as she's kidnapped from her village in Africa and survives the Middle Passage before ending up at Belle Grove. The dialogue can be a bit challenging to read at times because Johnson attempts to recreate a slave dialect, but it's really worth the effort to see the humanity of a woman who otherwise would have been nothing more to history than just a name on a slave ledger. Okay, lastly I have the film Loving, which is based on the story of Richard and Mildred Loving, an interracial couple from Caroline County who married in 1958. They were charged for violating Virginia's Racial Integrity Act of 1924, which made interracial marriage illegal, and eventually they filed suit in a case that went all the way to the Supreme Court. Loving versus Virginia overturned anti-miscegenation laws in 1967. I think this is a really outstanding movie. The sets and costumes are beautifully done and give it an authentic feel. Despite the historical importance of the subject, it still feels deeply personal, reminding the viewer that though they changed history, this couple was just two normal individuals. I found it to be an incredibly moving film. Well, that's all I have today. I hope you'll take the opportunity this Black History Month to read or watch some Black history or historical fiction, either from this list or from elsewhere. As always, please remember to ask myself or your other librarians if you need help finding the perfect book to read. Until next time, happy reading!